Welcome to Wellness That Lasts. I'm John Rothwell, Doctor of Nurse Practice with Island Direct Primary Care. Welcome to our first episode of Wellness That Lasts, where we dive deep into the 5 pillars of health: physical, mental, emotional, spiritual, and financial wellness. I'd like to introduce my friend and colleague, Dr. Dawn Allen, Advanced Practice Registered Nurse and Certified Health and Wellness Coach, to really kind of take a step back to where we really should start when it comes to wellness that lasts. Hi, Dawn. How are you?
I'm good.
So why don't you tell everybody a little bit about yourself?
I have been a nurse practitioner for 25 years. Yeah, it'll be 25 years this year. Been practicing in this area in Brevard County, and I've been a nurse practitioner since I graduated in 1999. So it's crazy. I worked in the traditional medical model, like the traditional, what you call Western medical model, for a good portion of my career, and kind of switched my focus really in midlife. So when I was transitioning through perimenopause, menopause, because I found, nothing against traditional medicine, but I needed more than just a diagnosis and medications. I really needed to turn inward and look at myself as a whole. My whole body, all the systems and how they worked together, which really includes your mindset. It includes how you see yourself, your emotions, your feelings, what your goals and visions are. And I found that I just wasn't able to find that within kind of that traditional model. So I started exploring other avenues, which included health coaching, became a certified women's health and wellness coach, life coach, and then dove into functional medicine. And
that's a great term, right? We both love functional medicine term.
So which I think is important to touch on, because you and I both agree, we love the root, looking at like the root cause of things, like what's the why. I think you probably agree, instead of root cause, like really what's the why? What's behind this? What's behind this symptom, including not just the systems, like not just what your heart's doing, your cardiovascular, but we want to make sure those are all working together. But who are you as a person? Who are you as this individual sitting in front of us? And what's your community? What's your connection? What's your joy, your happiness, spirituality? Like really looking at all those things combined, which I think makes us, you and I, just, great friends as well, because we really, that's important to us individually. And we've worked really hard at supporting each other with that, as well as everybody around us. So, and we do that with our patients. Yeah. It's just really important.
So I have a cheat sheet to keep me on task, because I like to talk, and I like to talk with Dawn because we get really passionate and excited about what's going on in the community. So at Island DPC, Island Direct Primary Care, we believe that mindset impacts the physical, mental, emotional, spiritual, and financial part of our life. How can we kind of start aligning our mindset with this kind of thinking when we go from just sick care to health care, and not just longevity? That's one of the news buzzwords, right? Mm-hmm. Longevity. You can get this from Tony Robbins or for whoever online for this much money. But I don't care if I live long if I can't live healthy. So increased lifespan isn't everything. I think increased health span is everything. And it has to start with a foundation somewhere, and so I believe that's mindset.
100%. So I think part of the foundations is, number one, mindset, and then just the foundations of health in general. Because like you said, you can go get whatever lab. You can go get from here or there a whole slew of labs or results with a pretty little printout that shows you, what's your cholesterol, but none of those are really looking at pulling them all together as to, how do they work, and what does that mean from a healthcare health span stance?
The interconnectedness
between those. And none of those are looking at two things to me. Number one is your thoughts about all of it. Like, what's your mindset? What's your thoughts about all of this? And then how do we take all of that and actually incorporate it into your life? How do we take all this information, this data, how your thoughts and feelings about all of the data, and figure out a way to help you make change that lasts.
So kind of taking your original mindset, and then the next step from that is, once you figure that out, then now you have to grow it, right? And so, we often hear terms like growth mindset or abundance mindset, but what does that really mean from a day-to-day perspective?
Yeah, and I think even was just thinking when you were saying that, even before that, I think it's important to dial down what mindset encompasses, because you're like, okay, it's here, right?
Sure.
My mindset is what I'm thinking on a daily basis. But I think it's important to, before we even get to that, is that it's not just the thoughts going on in our head, because we have thousands and thousands of thoughts at a time going on. It's the how specific thoughts that really occur kind of on repeat in your head make you feel. Like, what type of feeling are they causing, and to be able to identify what that actually is, because until we can figure out, what am I actually feeling? Is it happiness? Is it joy? Is it fear? Is it sadness? Whatever emotion it may be, that's actually what's driving the actions you're taking on a daily basis. Because you can set a goal, like say it's weight loss, say you want to lose whatever, 20 pounds or something. You can reach that goal driven through, like, your feeling, or your motivation to reach that goal can come from anger. It can come from anger. It can come from shame. It can come from self-doubt. It can come from what we'd call negative energy emotions, or it can come from moving forward, right? It can come from love for yourself. It can come from happiness. It can come from just acceptance, which is a completely different way to reach a goal.
Sure.
So, which can be for anything, whatever it may be.
Yeah, like kind of like that whole my glass is half full
Yes.
versus half empty concept. And so I know, at least in my house, I'm very positive. I always have a half full cup in this, encouraging, empowering type personality, right? Where, okay, we'll get through this. It's going to be hard, but we can do this kind of thing. And
not just even your house. You're like that everywhere. Yeah, you're like that here. You're like that everywhere.
Yeah, well, because I feel that way.
Yeah.
And that way actually brings me peace. It brings me happiness. It brings me joy. And those are two not exclusively the same things.
No.
And so a lot of people don't get that.
But that's a practice. You've been practicing that. You just didn't wake up one day like
No. And so exactly. So, so I was just glancing down at my cheat sheet, and it was like, so then how can someone begin rewiring their thoughts when they've been stuck in this whole survival mode and stress and self-doubt for years? So if I've been practicing it for years, and now you have someone, our age, which is, we're kind of like, we've had all these experiences in life. We have a little bit of wisdom. We're older.
We're very young.
Yeah, we're young. Yes. Okay, right. In age, in years. But, we have that experience. And now hopefully we've imparted some wisdom on things. And now we're sharing some of that with other people. And then all of a sudden we go, you know what? Life is good. And I want to be here longer to enjoy that stuff. And for some people, if they don't have that feeling, they got to rewire stuff like now versus, working with, high schoolers or working with young adults, right? I mean, the approach is probably different.
Yeah, no, 100%. But I think it's using those words, joy, happiness. I think you have to start in order to rewire, to determining how does that actually feel? What does joy, and it happens so often, I'll ask women if I'm, because most of the people I work with are women, and I'll say, well, when's the last time you felt joy? Or when's the last time you felt happiness? Or what does that feel like? What activities do you do that bring you those things?
How do you define it?
Exactly. So you have to define, number one, what does that feel like? And often they're like, I don't know. Like, I don't even remember. So I think part of the first step is identifying the things that actually do bring you happiness and joy, and then taking a moment to kind of sit with that. And sometimes it's little things. Maybe it's a song. Like if you're kind of overwhelmed, it's a song, like a song's on the radio. And we've all had that song that comes on that makes you super happy, and you turn it up and you sing. That's releasing stress. That's joy. That's happiness. The singing within itself is calming your nervous system. So I think it's defining and identifying what brings that to you in your life, and sitting with how that makes you feel. Same goes for fear. Like, what does it feel like when I'm sad, when I'm fearful, when I'm driving my actions based on those negative emotions? Not that we don't want those. Of course we want fear when it's legitimate,
Right.
When someone jumps out in front of you or is chasing you. But most of the time we're taking action every single day from fear.
Right.
And so it's identifying, I think it's just starting with that. So now you can say, oh, this is joy, this is happiness, this is fear. And then one step further from there is taking it back to what was driving it, as far as what we're thinking.
Right.
So the weight
It's-
loss is a good example, because if
Sure.
you're like, I want to lose weight, and there's so many out, but it's just easy to quantify,
Right.
and you're doing it from, I hate myself, like, I'm so fat, I don't
Right.
like how I look, I'm miserable, then you're certainly not going to feel good. That's going to be that's shame, self-doubt, and the actions that you're going to take are going to be way different than acceptance. Like, I accept how I look right now,
Sure.
or I love myself now in this moment. This is weight got me to where I am. It helped me have kids and
Sure.
whatever it may be. And I'm working on changing it. That's acceptance, courage. That's going to feel way different than the actions you take.
Yeah. And I think, when you take those pillars, physical, mental, emotional, spiritual, and financial piece, especially in the weight loss arena, right? Because the way of many people in our communities right now are either investing or spending a lot of money, right? And I think those are two different things. They lose all this weight, but if they haven't changed their mindset, if they haven't changed their thinking, then they're just less weight. The underlying problem, their why is still there. Yeah.
It's still going to be there.
And so we don't, like, in ILET Direct Primary Care, we don't take a whole lot of weight loss patients only because of that, because we think there's a bigger picture. And we find that people who are just looking for weight loss by itself struggle doing the work, right? They want the medicine to do the work for them, not the fuel or the nutrition, not the all the things. They just want a shot or a pill or something like that.
Or the why behind it. Why do you want to, why?
Yeah.
Why for
Why do you want to do it? Yeah. Why do you want to look this way? Why do you want to feel, whatever the case is. So it's definitely interesting. And we deal with addiction too. And because we're not psychiatric mental health nurse practitioners or psychiatrists, we don't deal with it from a psychology or psychiatry perspective, but we still get to that place where they need medical treatment. And when I start having conversations with them, they want a medicine to fix the addiction, and the addiction actually is just a symptom of what's going on underneath, and trying to get them to get help and work on the things that they need to actually stop drinking or drugging or whatever the case may be.
Yeah, it's usually a buffer. It's a buffer of some sort. Bless you.
That's my buffer from the environment. Yep. So, and you hit on it when you started talking about the last comment on dealing with the, rewiring, and you working with a lot of women. And majority of ILET Direct Primary Care's practice are women as well, which was kind of surprising to me because I was a guy. I mean, now we have multiple nurse practitioners here, and then you also help us too. And so there's like 4 of us doctors prepared nursing, and one guy. And so over 80% of our practice, I think, or 75% of our practice is female. And this is probably a conversation for another time, just kind of setting things up for another episode. But, men, I don't see a lot of men reaching out.
No, it's
right.
Like, you're really surprised. It's usually the woman.
It's that. And so, like, I tell women when they come in, like, I'd really love to get my husband to come here. And I'm like, just tell them I take care of blood pressures and boners, and you'll get them in. And so, and it's a little joke, but at the same time, what's important to men and what's important to women are vastly different.
Yes.
And so understanding how mindset works and understanding that part of health and wellness, so that we can create this wellness that lasts for a long time, because that's a change of mindset thing. That's where it starts. You might, if you read Atomic Habits or those kind of things, and even, there's a couple books out there that even talk about quantum energy and quantum space, which is a really interesting way to approach mindset, and how our thoughts and how we capture our thoughts can actually change the physical as well as the mental and emotional part of our life.
The energy and just
energy in general, right? And so cool. I think it's fascinating. I'm so happy that when we kind of got into school and you watched me start this, I remember I'm like, hey, Dawn, you should do this thing with me. And she's like, John, I don't think I want to do primary care. I want to do something different. And then we did functional medicine together, and we just kind of fed off each other back and forth and loved on each other and supported each other through, our business approaches and stuff. And we're partnering in some ways too and doing some things, which is really cool. But, you just really reached out there and go, you know what? I'm going to go for it. I'm going to go for this and much differently than I did. And I'm so glad you did focus on that mindset piece, reading up and studying neuroscience and those kind of things. And I think it's been fascinating for our community. I know you actually care for patients all across the country, which is super cool. So in your experience, why don't you give us, the top 2 barriers people face when they're trying to improve their mindset? Kind of give them something to go home with.
I think I don't know if I've been thinking about that because it's so different it's different for everybody, but I think really the underlying barriers for most people, of course, it's going to vary based on your life, your lifestyle, your support, your community, your connection, like your web of support to help you reach those goals. But I think the biggest ones are, and again, it's going to go back to kind of like the feelings, are enoughness, fear.
Am I enough?
And am I enough?
Yeah.
It almost always goes back to that.
Sure.
So, particularly if something's holding you up, and maybe it's not even if, a lot of times, if am I enough? It's do I have enough? Do I have enough time? Do I have enough money? Do I have enough, support, commitment, to be able to reach whatever your goal may be?
Mm-hmm.
And the other is usually fear. Mm-hmm. So, it is fear of failure, fear of what people will think, just fear in general. So I think those are the common barriers. And I think what's important is to realize that is true for almost everybody. So we feel like it's just us, but it's not. It almost always goes back to those 2 kind of emotions. So sure. I think it's number 1, identifying, what do I want? Like, what do I actually want? What brings me happiness? What brings me joy? What do I want to spend my time and energy doing, and with who? Because we can't figure this part out in the middle if we don't even know what that is.
Right.
So we got to figure that out first, and then identifying what is driving it. Really, what kind of, is it fear driving it? Is it, or what's holding you back?
Sure.
And then once you know that, I think accepting that it will always show up, because we're in society and life. That's what you look around us, look on social media, look everywhere. Yeah. What are you seeing constantly? You're not doing enough. You don't know enough. You're not doing enough. You're not good enough. You
don't have enough money.
You don't have enough money. You're not. So it's constantly being reinforced, and also just fear through comparison being reinforced. So I think it's just acknowledging that. What do you want? What's your goals? What do you want to do in life? Where do you want your time and energy? Acknowledging that we've been trained from the very beginning that you aren't enoughness. There's not enough of something there, and that it's driven by fear of what people may think or believe. So I think it's identifying that and then overcoming those along the way.
Yeah.
Knowing even as you get as far as we have with all this work, it still shows up. I mean,
all the time.
Yeah. So
it's a daily thing for me. Right. And so, so my spiritual health and my spiritual fitness is probably the one thing that I do consistently well versus my physical fitness, finding the amount of time, getting the right support, et cetera, to give me time to go do the physical. I just don't do it. Plain and simple, it's not my priority, but it needs to be a higher level priority. And I haven't made it that way. And I do for a period of time, 2 months, 3 months, 6 months, and then life gets in the way. My spiritual fitness starts off like, in the morning, I wake up, I pray, I meditate, I read my Bible, I read some kind of devotion or something like that. And that prepares me mentally to at least, sometimes I am being very productive in the day, and sometimes it just helps me survive the day. But more importantly, it gets me in the right set, looking in the right mindset, looking for opportunities to help others, because that's what we do, right? I mean, that's realistically what I think brings us joy from a professional perspective and a human perspective, is seeing other people take those steps forward to create wellness that lasts, right? I mean, that's kind of how I came up with the title. So it's like, how do we create something that lasts and it's not just kind of short? And so many different episodes that we can talk about. You're going to be talking with me on functional medicine and mindset and longevity and genetics and nutrition. We'll get Jess in here, and we'll get Megan in here, and we'll have some fun in that. And I mean, even some integrative health, alternative healthcare guys like chiropractic and acupuncture and that kind of stuff. We can hit on those kind of things. But thank you so much for joining me today. We've been talking about kind of doing a little something for years.
Yeah.
And so I don't know exactly, well, it was probably fear that kept me from doing it. And so I had some of my patients just go like, hey, John, you should do this. And so that's what's driven it. And so thank you for being on this journey with me. I appreciate your friendship more than anything, more than you know, and definitely your professional wisdom and experience. So thanks for being here. And I'm John Rothwell, Doctor of Nursing Practice with Wellness That Lasts. That's my serious face. And we look forward to seeing you on our next episode.
Have we had Dawn for business?
Yes. Well, yeah. And I mean, you can. Are you doing anything, or are you just doing for Jessica and all of them? Are you doing anything?
I'm doing, I have some of my own, but I put them through here anyways. Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah. Did we,
Good.
I don't know. I think we just walked around in circles about feelings and emotions, but hopefully it helps.
Well, that's why I had my cheat sheet.
Yeah.
Because at least in the cheat sheet, if we went in circles, because you and I can go in circles because we banter, having that and throw the questions out kind of.
You could have a whole conversation about that, because when you started talking about your spirituality, I think another really important point is to help people define their mindset and where they want to put their time and energy is your core values. The spirituality for sure is one of your core values.
Yeah.
So everything you do for time and energy is aligned with those values. And when they're not, you're going to feel out of alignment. So it's another conversation too. That's a really important piece. That's part of the work I do with my people to start with. What are your actual values? Because then you know where you spend your time and energy.
So for me, it's, community, right? Or it's God, family, and community in that order, right? Mm-hmm. So for me, my 3 core values are God, family, and community. And then my approach to all of that, working with people, is let's be loving, encouraging, and empowering, right? And so you've kind of given me, not grief, but teasing me at times like, John, you're so busy out there helping everyone else reach their goals or follow their dreams and stuff like that, your experience has value. You don't need to just give everything away. And so. But
it's challenging when those are your core values. So it's defining the fine line, because you also need to apply those to your personal needs. Reminder: family, freedom, and well-being. So family is everything to me. So it's when someone asks for my, even here, like if you ask for my time and attention, which there's only so much of, right? It's limiting things.
We have 24 hours a day. That's it.
So if it's, if it doesn't align with that, if it's taking me away from my family, it's taking away. And freedom for me is financial freedom, travel freedom, like the time freedom, the ability to create my schedule to travel, to do the things that I want to do. But coming here supports my well-being. So it's taking me away from not really. My son's at school, my husband's working. So it's not really taking me away from family. And even if they were home, it would be supporting my well-being. So the answer is yes.
Yeah.
So I'm going to come here today and do that.
Yeah. And it builds it too. It's just kind of like when you kind of step away from those couple things, and they're just like, it's building up to, you can't wait to get home to your family, to do those things, to, what I've been doing, I can't wait to travel, right? And so whether you're building the financial pool that allows you to do that, or just giving yourself away, and then you need to be renewed, right? And so it's one thing you've kind of pushed on me over the past 5.5 years since I've been open. It's like, John, you're learning how to rest, but you need to renew. You need to go on a vacation. You need to do things in, 4 or 5 days isn't always enough. You have to do that. And so I'm taking my first
You
case.
need to read fun books.
Oh, and I need to read fun books, which, the fun book thing is, she told me that. So I went out and bought 14 books, all in the series. So being an overachiever that I am. Yeah. So, but I read a fun book every night now, by the way, and it helps me get out of my business mind, and it kind of shuts things down a little bit and kind of gets me into this world of fiction.
It's breaking up your path.
Yeah. And guess who's falling asleep quicker? And guess who's sleeping longer, right? Now, my deep sleep still, depends on what's going on in life. It fluctuates, but that's working pretty good for me. And then I'm excited because in May, we're going to go, my wife and I are going to go on a 3-week trip.
I'm excited about this for you.
And so I'm having to accept and acknowledge the stress and the fear that comes with that approaching, but I'm going to surrender to the moment each day and realize that I have a wonderful team here, wonderful resources. I also know you're there to help support Megan and them if they have questions, especially on the functional medicine side or the what would John do side if they need that, because we think similarly in a lot of ways. You just have better boundaries than I do. But I'm learning.
Yes. And you're going to be present and mindful when you're on your trip and enjoy your time.
So yeah, that's it. That's interesting. You bring that up. So when I have conversations with my spouse now, my wife's Wendy, and periodically I'll say, "Look, give me a second. I want to be present here for you." So one of the things I do for that is I don't compromise dinner time unless I'm gone. So tonight I have an advisory board meeting. I won't be there for dinner, but in general, I cook dinner for my wife every night unless we go out on a date, and I take my phone and I push it somewhere else, and we sit down and we have our meal together and we enjoy each other's time, whether that's just conversation, whether that's watching TV, whatever it is, but we're present together, and then I spend some time after dinner with her and then go back to doing what brings me joy and happiness, which is work. I mean, to me, this isn't work. So it's hard for people to understand that, but it's, kind of reading the new things, right? And diving deep into what's out there, picking apart what's on social media.
I think what's important to that is it's what's driving it. Is it overconsumption because you don't feel like you know enough and you need to keep reading, learning to be able to be good enough at what you're doing? Or is it because you're genuinely interested and happy and excited to be reading it?
Sure. So let me ask you a question. How many certifications are you taking right now?
None.
Imagine that.
I'm none.
Yeah. So, for the audience out there, Dawn and I had a habit of when we got out of school was taking more school and looking at and more certifications and more things. And I was just like, Dawn, I want to integrate now what I like to refer as foundational approach, but a functional approach to healthcare in my practice, but I haven't got my certification yet. And she's like, John, you know enough. You are enough. You can do it. Just do it, right? I think Nike said it best, right? Just do it. So, you don't always have to wait because there is no perfect timing.
Not. And enough, I think the key to that is enough comes from within.
Yeah.
It's not from the book. It's not from your wherever. It's from here. It's from within.